Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of 6 for 6 here. We're heading into week 7 of the college football season. It's season 4, episode 10 on 6 for 6, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting off to a very solid start from last week, ladies and gentlemen. We went for a glorious 5-1 in our picks. Beautiful in our pick selection. Couldn't ask for much better in our picks. Hopefully, we can keep that trend going and keep growing that win margin. This week is going to be very tough with what has been happening in the world of college football. You have Penn State losing to UCLA, Texas losing to Florida. Just so much pandemonium in this week of college football, ladies and gentlemen. But that means our record looks better each week as we get more correct picks, because now we're at 30, 22, and 1 for our overall correct picks that we got going on. So very solid all the way across the board on 6 for 6. But we got to get into the meat and potatoes this week. We got some good break matchups, things that could be possible trap games for some schools, but it's going to put you on the edge of your seat for week 7 of the college football season. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. First up, ladies and gentlemen, in our sixth slot, we have number 15, that team up north, Michigan, versus the University of Spoiled Children, USC, on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on NBC. Michigan took care of business against Wisconsin, 24-10, where USC was coming off of a bye, and they're looking to be revengeful after their loss to Illinois, 34-32. So we got an interesting match for USC. They, from their schedule, their defense is just not good enough against Big Ten opponents. If you look at Purdue, they put up 33 points but gave up 17. When they played Michigan State, they put up 45 points but gave up 31. So it's a common theme that this USC defense isn't solid. Now, on the other hand, you look at Michigan, they lose to Oklahoma basically by a couple possessions, 24-13, but they narrowly escaped Nebraska, but Wisconsin, they held them to 10. So the crazy thing that we're dealing with here with Michigan is they're going to try to grind you out and keep it low scoring, let the defense put in the work. So that's how Michigan's going to play. They're going to try to keep USC's offense off the field and keep this a low scoring game, because that's how Michigan football is going to be played, versus USC wants to be a high powered offense and drive it down the field and just keep running up the scoreboard against you. But this game is going to be in USC, but Michigan is a favorite with a 68% chance of victory in this matchup. And I like Michigan in this matchup because they have that good old school Big Ten football that they're just going to run the ball at you and just say, stop us. If you can't stop us, we're just going to do it all day and we're just going to beat you that way. That's Michigan football right there. They're going to get down nitty gritty and punch you in your face and score right then and there. Now, USC, they like I said, flashy. All those kids don't want to get smacked around a little bit. And this is where Michigan football is going to show them what it's like to play in the Big Ten year in and year out. So give me Michigan to win this matchup. You can catch Michigan number 15 in the nation versus USC on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on NBC. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have in our fifth slot Arizona State, who's number 21 in the nation, versus Utah, Saturday at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:15 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN. Both teams are 4-1, ladies and gentlemen, but some of their matchups have been tough with their whole conference play starting to get underway. Utah getting embarrassed by Texas Tech, but rebounding, destroying West Virginia. West Virginia is having a down year. But keep in mind, Utah destroyed UCLA, and UCLA beat Penn State. So this Utah team is somewhat dangerous right now in the Big 12. Now, Arizona State plays games. Their defense keeps teams at bay, giving up 24 points per game for the last 2 weeks. And they're just going to slowly try to march their way through. They lost to Mississippi State 24-20. So their defense is solid. Their offense wants to keep it close. But it seems like they're trying to keep you off the field so they can score less points are being scored. Utah, on the other hand, looking at their conference play, they want to put on point, but when they struggle, they flat out struggle. Hence Texas Tech. Once they get going, Utah is dangerous, especially at home. Now, they granted lost to Texas Tech at home, but going on the road to West Virginia, they took care of business. UCLA took care of business at UCLA. So it's just that scenario where if you get Utah in a certain situation, they will find ways to beat you. And that's why I like this Utah team right now. It's going to be tough for them in the Big 12, but I think that knocking off Arizona State is going to be a key sentiment since Arizona State did make it into the college football playoffs. And I think Utah has a good chance of running the Big 12 if things go their way and their players stay healthy in this week's matchup. So you can get to number 21, Arizona State versus Utah, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:15 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN, and I have Utah winning this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Ohio State number 1 team in the nation versus number 17 Illinois at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. It's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Definitely, I would say, is a trap game for Ohio State based on how they've been playing the games as of late. They have struggled in the first half with their offense, and they turn it on in the second half. I don't think you can afford to do that against a team like Illinois, who's can be battle tested like they are up against USC and make statement wins when they need to. Now, going on to the road, Ohio State needs to figure out what they need to do. They stalled against Washington. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Ohio State was shut out in the first quarter, and it was like 3 points second way through it, but they kicked it on in the second half. It's dangerous when you have a team that does that. It's great that they can turn it on in the second half, but you got to play 4 quarters of football. And if you want to play 4 quarters of football, that's what you need to do in the playoffs. You can't be coming in and thinking like, oh, I only need a half a quarter. A half a quarter is what's going to get you beat. And Ohio State can't afford to do that on the road to Illinois. They have to find a way to get the drives going and get points up on the board so they're not trailing at half. Because if they're trailing at half, I feel like Julian Sain is going to try to find ways to play hero ball, and he doesn't need to play hero ball, and it's going to cost Ohio State a victory. But we'll see how it goes. He's taking care of business when it matters the most right now. But I like Ohio State in this matchup, but it's a possible trap game, ladies and gentlemen. So keep your eyes out on Ohio State as they kick off at noon, ladies and gentlemen. So you can catch Ohio State, number 1 in the nation, versus number 17, Illinois, on Saturday, noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Fox. And I have Ohio State winning this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in our third slot, we have Oklahoma, number 6 in the nation, versus Texas at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, Red River is going to be very interesting this year. Arch Manning has been struggling. He is not playing well. He didn't do what we wanted him to do against Florida. Sure, they had cupcakes in there, but it's not good. It's not good football against their cupcakes. When they face teams in the Power Four, he has not performed. He has not performed on those stages. And playing Oklahoma right now, ladies and gentlemen, Oklahoma's on a roll. They're trying to make a statement. They're 5-0, going into your rival, Red River, in the Cotton Bowl. And they took care of Michigan earlier in the season. Good fashion, 24-13. They beat Auburn, took care of Kent. Now, the Auburn victory, I'm a little bit worried about because it was 24-17. But Auburn's a meh football team right now. So that's what's worried about me. But Arch Manning's performance for the last few weeks, ladies and gentlemen, sure, he can put up points, but UTEP 27-10, he should be putting up like 45 points in that game, not 27. So I really don't know what they need to do to get him to feel that confidence like he is that Texas quarterback that can get them to the playoffs. Now they have the recipe, like what will happen to Ohio State, where they lose to a bad team and get beat by a good team. Now they have a recipe to make a run at the college football playoffs. You're in week 7. You got your losses out the way. Now build up that momentum to put you into the college football playoffs. Sure, you might be in a difficult seed to do it, but that's what Ohio State did. And if you want to be a national championship, champions don't like easy paths. Even though we want them to have the easy path, the hardest path is probably the most rewarding path to take. And Texas is in that boat like Penn State. It's going to be grueling. Every week is elimination week, and they have to find a way to win to get through it. But I think Oklahoma is going to make a statement game out of this and put Texas out of commission in this one, ladies and gentlemen, because Oklahoma is going to try to make an SEC title push. And it's going to be hard because Georgia has a one loss. Alabama has a loss, but they're still rolling. Tennessee has a loss there, but Oklahoma is sitting on top, looking pretty. And they can't afford to lose to Texas right now because that will hurt their ranking drastically. Keep winning, and life will be A-okay. So give me Oklahoma to beat Texas. You can catch Oklahoma number 6 in the nation versus Texas Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC. And I have, ladies and gentlemen, Oklahoma winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in our number 2 slot, we have the mighty Crimson Tide, number 8 in the nation, versus Missouri, number 14 in the nation. You can catch it noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, Alabama has been rolling. Took care of the possible trap game in Vanderbilt, 30-14. Beat Georgia convincingly. Took care of Wisconsin. Only lost to Florida State at the beginning of the season, but now they're rolling. The tide that starts to roll is a dangerous tide, ladies and gentlemen. It's like being caught at sea at a rip current. It just keeps going, and it pulls you out, and you don't know how long this goes. This is what this Alabama team is starting to do. I know I said in previous weeks, I doubt that it's not the same Alabama, but I think I forgot to mention that when Alabama loses, it's very difficult for them to lose again. Those players have that ambition. They still have some of that Nick Saban genes in them, but that's starting to phase out as time progresses on. They're going to look to make things a little bit more tricky, more challenging for them this week, going up against Missouri in Missouri. But Missouri took care of South Carolina. They took care of UMass. They took care of Kansas. Haven't really got much of SEC action yet, but they're 5-0, and they're looking hungry right now, trying to make a statement in the SEC to say, hey, we belong, and we're going to make a shot at the SEC title game. If not, get a nice seed in the college football playoffs. Alabama can't afford to lose being a 2-loss team, but they can. But it makes the college football committee a little bit more drastic. But ladies and gentlemen, after week 8, the actual rankings come out for college football. So this is like the last push to convince yourself that, hey, committee, we've been doing good after our loss to Florida State. We're looking better than what we were. We're taking care of good teams and making things look good. Same with Missouri. If you knock off Alabama, now that looks really great because Alabama beat Georgia now. So it's that the committee is going to start looking at Missouri saying, could they be a team that's a college football team? Are they one of the 12 best teams in the country? That's what the committee is starting to look at. They're looking at this week and they're looking at next week to kind of reveal the selection for the college football playoffs and how that's going to start to shake out as we start wrapping up the college football season. So big games this week. The committee is watching it at full hand. We got 7 weeks of football, got teams on byes. So it's a nice little even slate, but we haven't had much conference play, which is making it a little bit challenging for the committee to make these certain adjustments on where teams are going to rank. So we're going to see what that looks like in the coming weeks. But I have Alabama taking care of business in this one, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch Alabama number 8 in the nation versus Missouri number 14, Saturday, noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC. Before we reveal the game of the week, let's do a quick recap so we can get you on for our game of the week. So, ladies and gentlemen, quick recap. So we have Michigan number 15 in the nation versus USC. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on NBC, and I have Michigan winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Arizona State, number 21 in the nation versus Utah on Saturday at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:15 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN, and I have Utah winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Ohio State, number 1 in the nation versus Illinois, number 17 in the nation, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Fox. And give me the Ohio State to win this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we got Red River rivalry, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch Oklahoma number 6 in the nation versus Texas, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I have Oklahoma winning this matchup. In our number 2 slot, ladies and gentlemen, we have number 8 Alabama versus number 14 Missouri. And you can catch that game Saturday at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC. And I have Alabama winning it. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the game of the week. We have Indiana, number 7 in the nation, going up against number 3 Oregon in this matchup, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch this game 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on CBS. Now let's break this down, ladies and gentlemen. Both teams are coming off of a bye, which is highly needed on the games that they played. Oregon had an emotional victory in Happy Valley in a whiteout and a double overtime victory to beat Penn State. But Penn State goes up and loses the literally previous week to UCLA. So it makes me wonder, how good is this Oregon Ducks football team? Is this team going to get a trap game at home to Indiana? Indiana didn't struggle against Iowa, but that Iowa defense is a menace defense. They beat Iowa 20-15, respectable victory. But they beat Illinois 36-10. They're beating all the small schools, Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, beating them convincingly. But if you look at Oregon, they beat Oregon State 41-7. Northwestern 34-14. They started out slow in that one. They took care of Oklahoma State 69-3. And then they beat, looks like Montana State, I want to say, and 59-13. This Oregon Ducks team is doing something special right now. They're trying to get back and go back-to-back in the Big Ten and make a statement saying that you say the Big Ten's a great conference, but we just came in last year and won the whole thing and beat all your good Big Ten schools that were the quote-unquote the cream of the crop. They didn't play the team up north that year, but it's basically they beat everyone in the regular season convincingly and ran the table. Now they're about to do that again. They knocked off Penn State. They don't have to face Ohio State until the Big Ten title game. So, they're kind of rolling pretty good, if you ask me. Now, Indiana, on the other hand, when I was talking to some of my friends, they had a similar schedule like last year. They didn't really play too many opposing teams. They'll ride all the way up into the college football playoffs. Maybe a 1-loss team, maybe a 2-loss team, depending what they got left. But this is where, like I said, when I was talking about Alabama, the committee's looking at this game. If Indiana stuns Oregon, that's going to put Indiana probably top 4 as it's at number 7. They have to do it convincingly. They win in overtime, they might move them up to 5, maybe 4, depending how they feel. But this is where the playoffs starts to shake out. We see the teams that can ride into the sunset to get to the national championship game, to get home field playoff advantage, to have a nice New Year's 6, quarterfinal mix-up going on. Things like this play a huge impact into that. And Indiana, if they lose, they got to lose close. You got to make it look like we lost by 1, and if we went to a neutral site, there's a chance for us to actually beat them. That's what they have to do in this matchup. And I think Oregon is going to make sure that doesn't happen to make sure they don't have to deal with Indiana in the playoffs. Put them out of the misery, and that'll be it. And I like Oregon in this matchup because they're going to find a way to do it. If they come out sluggish, it's going to be a long ball game for Oregon, and they can't afford to have that happen because that's going to hurt them in their stock with the College Football Committee. So you can catch number 7 Indiana versus number 3 Oregon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on CBS, and I have the Oregon Ducks winning it. Let's get a quick recap, and we'll send you on out here so you can enjoy this week of college football, ladies and gentlemen. And our number 6 slot, ladies and gentlemen, we have number 15 Michigan against USC Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on NBC, and I have Michigan winning this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Arizona State, number 21 in the nation, versus Utah, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:15 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN, and I have Utah winning this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in our 4th slot, we have the Ohio State, number 1 in the nation, versus Illinois, who's number 17 in the nation. And you can catch this game noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Fox, and I have the Buckeyes winning this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Red River rivalry. Number 6, Oklahoma versus unranked Texas coming off of that messed up loss against Florida. You can catch it at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I have Oklahoma winning it. Next up, our number 2 slot, number 8 Alabama versus number 14 Missouri. You can catch noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I have Alabama winning it. The tide is rolling on. And ladies and gentlemen, the game of the week, number 7 Indiana versus number 3 Oregon. Tough matchup in Eugene going into Oregon. You can catch this game 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on CBS. And I have Oregon winning this matchup and not a close one, but a decisive victory for Oregon to help them out in their ranking in the college football playoffs as the committee starts to make their decisions in the coming weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, our last week's episode, we went 5 correct picks to 1 incorrect pick. Depending on how you want to look at it, I like this one better. That's how it is, ladies and gentlemen. We had a great week. I know I need to do at some point the percentage on how my correct picks are looking overall for this season, but we're humming in our YouTube channel. We're getting a lot of views. If you want to look at us historically, it's definitely going to be one of those matchups where it plays into our benefit with all your support that we have been going on here on 6 for 6, ladies and gentlemen. On the channel's page from when we first started back in 2023, it looks like when I created its own separate channel page, we have 118 views and 33 videos right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's looking great. We're on the up and up for 6 for 6 with 3 subscribers. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button to know that you like the content that we're putting out. And we're giving you good games to watch each and every week. That really helps us out a lot. As well as follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Well, it's now X. I'm going to have a hard time changing that one. But ladies and gentlemen, continue to support 6 for 6. It makes my life a little bit more fun each and every day to give you great content. And ladies and gentlemen, our season 4 ranks are 30, 22, and 1. Thank you so much for supporting 6 for 6. Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit the subscribe button to our Spotify as well as our YouTube channel to help us grow and make this spread a lot more better or even more for everyone to watch us. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time here on 6 for 6. So long for now. Bye-bye.